I'm Mike Walker.
I'm David Patrick.
We are Dads on Books. Bum, bum, bum.
Dads on Books. 2 minutes later. But we are dads on books. We're addicted to books, we sit on books, and we even talk about books.
Welcome to another episode of Dads on Books. Here we are, David, in the month of February.
We are, Mike. Indeed, we are here.
We are so close to have been dropping episodes for a full year.
Yes, we are.
Crazy. It's pretty crazy.
Did we research the exact date? Not that it
we talked about it, but we did not research the exact date. I could actually do that if you would like to really, really know.
Almost a year. How's that?
Almost a year.
Yes. Well, this is a bit of a different kind of episode than what we've done before.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
You can tell in our somber voices.
Yes, our semi-serious tone, if you will.
Semi-serious.
Yes, semi.
Because we are only semis. Wait, I'm an 18-wheeler. Cool.
Nice. That's a lot of shoes, dude.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine a millipede. That's why, I think that's why Eric Carle only did the Hungry Caterpillar.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Hungry Millipede would have cost too much.
To draw all those shoes and feet
all those
and
shoes,
legs.
yeah.
And,
Would have taken years longer.
He wouldn't be done yet.
And then he would never be done because he's no longer with us, I believe.
Wow, I didn't know that. So sort of like the cathedrals, it took like 150 years to work. So no one who worked on it at the beginning got to see the end.
Pretty much. Was that in France or Spain?
The famous one is the one by Gaudi. And that is one that looks like drip castles and stuff.
And that's the one that they maybe finally finished?
I think
or is it still building?
No, I think it was last week.
An old one.
It was last week. They finally finished.
Really?
Yeah, no.
Is that where they found the Picasso?
Are you doing a callback to Dan Gutman?
Possibly. Possibly.
No, yeah, the Gaudi is the one that was finished, relatively recently. So you remember Underground, David McCulley, the book that we did last year, I guess we can now say.
It dropped sometime after May 26th.
There you go. How do you know that?
2025. Because what did I do? I did my research while you were talking.
Dude, you're always researching.
I know.
And that'll be relevant.
Every time I search, I can never find anything. So I have to research.
You have to search again, hence research.
Again.
One of McCullough's earlier books was Cathedral. So he did a book. And the first book that I discovered him with was Castle, where he does an extremely accurate telling of the building of a fictional castle. And so he did one of Cathedral, and it took like 150 years to build all those cathedrals. And most of them were in France, like Reims and places like that. And Chat.
I told them we already have one. I thought in your general direction.
Anyway, I guess we have to do an episode now about Monty Python and the Holy Grail so we can link that somewhere.
Yes, we can always link that.
Yes.
I give it 2 thumbs to the side.
2 thumbs over.
Guy.
Like that guy. Anyway, so those cathedrals took a long time. So let's get into the book, shall we?
So yes, we shall. So we were just talking about David McCullough. I'm tired.
Should I take over for a second? Let you rest?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, so we were talking about
that's all.
Haggadah. Who needs sound effects when we have us? I forgot exactly how it came up, but the origin story is, so my girls go to a Catholic school. We have mass at school on Wednesdays. And I am glad I found this a few minutes ago, but on Wednesday, February 4th, Father Mike was doing the homily. Well, actually, I was sitting in the library before mass getting some work done, and he came and knocked on the door. He said that the librarian had left him some books, and did I know where they were? And I didn't, and I asked what they were, and he said they were some books about the story of Ruby Bridges. And I didn't know who that was, but I thought I'll help you find them. So he went back to prepare for mass, and I looked for the books and couldn't find them. Then I found the librarian, and the books got to him, and he wanted to use them in the homily. And Ruby Bridges, it turns out, was a little girl who was integrated into a school in New Orleans during the Civil Rights Movement, and he referred to her in the homily. he held up the book. This is one of the books.
The Story of Ruby Bridges.
Yes. And then this book was also in the library, and this is the story. It's Through My Eyes. It's the story of Ruby Bridges by Ruby
Ruby
Bridges.
Bridges.
I believe that is called a memoir, which is why here on the spine it says memoirs.
Memoir.
Memoir, which is French for memoir.
Memoir.
Memoir. One of the things, and I'm really glad I found this, this is the program for Mass for
Yep.
that day. And I always take notes during Mass because I teach public speaking.
It's funny. I do research and you do notes.
Yes.
Yes. Intriguing.
For example, for today, notes.
Excellent. And
Yes.
intriguing.
Mm-hmm. So I take notes because of public speaking. In Mass, there are readings, there's the homily, and there are other announcements that are made. So I was taking notes, and Father Mike said, Ruby said that you need to live what you say you believe.
That's deep.
Yep. And Ruby Bridges was someone who did that. She lived what she said she believed. And so at some point, you and I were talking about books, and because we do that.
And we also have been trying to do our own little integration. See what I did there?
Nice, I do.
We've been trying to integrate some holidays, some themes of the months. So in the US at this point, we are one day shy of the middle of what month?
February?
That'd be the one. Not the drop date, but the recording date.
Yes. Today is the beginning of President's Day weekend.
Yes. But what also is February?
African American History Month.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that would be part of the reason that Father Mike was looking at the story of Ruby Bridges, which also reminded us, oh, right, it's February. We should probably talk about this as well.
Yes. So it just kind of came together that way.
Yeah, which is really cool. I'm glad it did.
Me too. And you were the one. I'm going to give you credit for the themes of February, because what weekend is this again?
Pete the Cat weekend.
And what else?
Valentine's Day. The Ides of February.
That would be Sunday. Yes. But there's one more thing. Now, to give you a hint, I mentioned it earlier as to what exactly today.
Tomorrow's Valentine's Day.
President's Day weekend.
President's Day.
It was your idea.
I was not thinking that because we already talked about that.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh my gosh, I'm tired.
No, that's okay. So the point is, you're the one who thought, hey, we should do a president book of some sort for President's Day.
Yep.
And that's why we ended up finding George Washington's teeth.
Yes.
So
which he could not find because he dropped them when they fell out.
Yes, throughout his entire adult life.
Absolutely.
Which is actually a cool theme I'm realizing. And we'll get to this when we get into the Ruby Bridges books. We both knew that George Washington had bad teeth, lost his teeth, had fake teeth. But that really fun book just shed a whole new light and a bigger part of the story. And one of the many things that made me interested in the story of Ruby Bridges, I was an American history major in college, and unofficially I studied African American history because many of my classes studied different parts of African American history, including the civil rights movement. I had never heard of Ruby Bridges.
I will admit that I had never heard of Ruby Bridges either. But leading us back, as you did, to your college days, which was probably around the same time when I was in high school, that MacArthur High School in Lawton, Oklahoma, shout out. Couple of things. First of all, I thought of this last night while I was reading the book and thinking about it, that my first drama teacher was named Wallace Bridges. I have no idea if there's any relation, just had the same last name. And I made that correlation last night. And it really probably doesn't mean anything, except that I had a teacher named Mr. Bridges, who was also Black.
Okay.
And a phenomenal guy. To me, I don't know how he was to everybody else, but he was instrumental in my continuing to do theater throughout my life, I guess, because I still am performing. So a lot of what he taught me in that single year stuck with me. So,
Wow.
yeah. And then also, I believe it was that same year that the school started an African American club.
Wow.
And there were a handful of us, myself, my friend Eric Schwickerath, which is harder to say than to, no, it's hard to spell.
I was
I
gonna
don't know which is harder. I
if
don't even know where
anybody
that
out there,
name is from.
if
It's
y'all know
weird.
how to spell that name, could you please email us at
Dads on books at
that's the one.
gmail.com.
Let us know how to spell that because I don't. And we're back.
We're back. Anyway, I believe Eric and I, and possibly my friend John Adams, who is also in Dallas, like you,
Oh,
Dallas
yeah,
area, we went to the very first meeting. And a lot of people were like, "What are you doing here? Why are you here?"
because 'cause you're white.
And we're white.
Mhm. Mhm.
And basically, we said, it didn't say this was a black club. It said it was an African American club, and you were learning about African American history and talking about that stuff.
Mhm.
And that was something we all were interested in.
Wow.
So we joined at some point.
Oh, wow.
So, um, uh, but it was really neat to learn some history that I don't know that I knew, but it was a great way to learn, I guess, about a different culture, a different, even though we're all Americans, it's still
Mhm.
a different culture and a different people. So we all have our own separate traditions, but we're all from here.
Yes.
So, but after we said that, they were like, okay, cool. We're glad that you're here.
That's awesome.
So
I have a couple questions for you.
go ahead.
Well, first of all, before I ask you a question, yeah, so it is a different culture, but, I think a lot of times people don't really fully realize and think about the fact that we are unique. The United States is unique because we have so many cultures here.
Yes.
And while people do assimilate, the different cultures that we have still not even leave a mark, but still are part of our culture.
Yes.
I was having a conversation yesterday with a colleague at school. One of the classes I took in college was the history of African American music. And obviously, slavery was evil and a horrible thing. But because of it, you had Western music, European classical music coming to the United States. But you also had African music,
Yeah.
rhythms and drums.
Yep.
And then later here through slavery, they were incorporated into work songs. And then the slave owners wanted the slaves to be Christian, but separate. So you had a separate African American Christian churches and then the music from there. But because of all of that, if that didn't happen, we would never have had blues or jazz or country and western or rock and roll. And that's just one example of different cultural influences that come to our country and can also blend and create another. I mean, jazz is a true American art form.
Absolutely.
And then to continue the geographic influence, you have a bunch of dock workers and people working on ships in Liverpool who came to the United States and discovered this new music and brought it back. And that's part of what sowed the seeds of British rock and roll. And then it came back in the British invasion. So you have all these arrows going
Yeah.
back and forth over centuries, and that's why we have the Beatles. So,
And the Rolling Stones as well.
yeah, absolutely.
Everybody's always like, "Oh, you're either a Beatles or a Rolling Stone." I'm a Beatles, but
Me too.
you look at the Rolling Stones and you listen to their music. It's like, my gosh, like there's so much influence from America and exactly what you were saying.
Well, and one of the things I loved in college, one of the classes I took was the history of African American music. It was a joint history and music class. I still have the textbook, and it was a great class, and that's where I learned much more of the details of all those arrows and things I was talking about with the history of those influences. Mike, I think we're setting a record.
18
Yeah.
minutes and we
8
haven't really gotten into the story.
the actual book or books that we
Right.
have read or read.
But I think we've done a good job of talking about the kind of a backstory of the
Mhm.
book. and
Mhm.
kind of setting up the impetus for why this story is there.
Yes. And another thing that we did, what we typically do, and I'm sure all of you have listened to all
Every
39,
40 now? Well, this is number 40.
all 39 of our previous episodes. Now I have to link all of them because I just mentioned them.
Good job. Nice
Thank you.
work.
Oh, yeah. But what we typically do is Mike and I agree on a book. We both read it separately and then we talk about it, hence Dad's on Books. But this time we thought, let's read two different books. And
Yes.
at first we were going to book and maybe even see if we found the same one. But I ended up finding two really good ones in our library. So Mike chose one and I chose the other. And that's what we did.
And part of that was because little backstory about the week. I've been very busy. It is now Friday. I have worked every day until 10 to 11:30 the past 4 days. So
Right.
I put in I think at least 60-hour week
Golly. And
in
it's only
4 days.
Friday morning. Yeah. In
So
4 days.
yeah. So
So,
and I have 2 podcasts to edit for Monday.
on top of all that, you're also a husband and a father with one child still at home.
Yes, which I
So,
after this have to take to the hospital. I mean,
oh,
the appointment,
okay.
doctor's
Yeah.
appointment. So
So, to one of the many things I love for those of you out there listening about doing this podcast with Mike is there are times when one of us is more busy than the other. It's often Mike. And so I knew that was happening. So the first book is a smaller book and it's a picture book. So I just took pictures of the picture book and I sent the pictures to Mike. I said, you do this one. And I didn't know at first that this book, the memoir by Ruby Bridges, is more in depth, 60 plus pages. There you go. There's a book.
there's the book that I read
And
on the
here's
device that I read.
and here's the book that I read on the device that I read, which is an actual book.
Nice.
But this book was phenomenal.
I bet that book never loses power
It doesn't.
because this, every once in a while, this will die.
Oh my God. Mike, when you said loses power, I got misty eyed because more than once I got really moved by this book.
Yes.
And sidebar, this might be a 2-part episode.
Oh my gosh, I know, right?
Sidebar, I had a somewhat rough day in my 7th, 8th grade public speaking class yesterday. And I had assigned the kids to do homilies as their assignment, their public speaking assignment. And we were talking about it and it wasn't belligerent, like, why don't you do one, Mr. Patrick? But that happened.
Yeah.
I said, okay. And someone had a Bible and they found a passage and I took about 3 minutes to read it and do some research and I did a homily, but I ended up referring back to Father Mike's homily. And I even asked them, do you remember Father Mike's homily when he had the book? And fortunately, many of them do remember the homily, even though it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
They do remember the message. But I had the books actually in the room and I, held them up and I shared with them about this story and just got teary eyed because it is a beautiful, wonderful, and at times scary story.
I hated it.
You did?
Yes. I hate that.
I know where you're going. Hated that she had to go through that. And one of the things that I realized about this book early on is it wasn't that long ago.
No, it was 7 years before you were born.
Yeah.
Put that in perspective. Like,
well, and another thing is Ruby is like 6 years older than my brother. So should we get into the book?
absolutely.
The books. So I have way too much to talk about. I've got a page and a half of notes.
Well, go. Start. Go.
2.5 pages. Scalp. Show, don't tell.
I'll be over here crying.
Okay. So it's 1960, segregated New Orleans. The first of many facts about this story that I didn't know. And I had to double check it. It said 1960 and Ruby was the first student under high school, younger than high school, to be integrated.
There were actually 4 kids
yes,
total.
in 5 states.
Yeah. Well, in New Orleans, there were 4 kids that were sent to school. She was at one school, the
Right.
other 3 were at another school. So she was on her own.
Mhm.
Not that it makes it any better, but the other 3 had
Each other.
each other.
Right. No, that's important.
Yeah.
But what I messed up the fact I was trying to say.
Okay.
She said that she was the first student under the college level to be integrated into a public school in the deep South 5 states. And I remember that Brown versus Board of Education, the Supreme Court case that declared segregation illegal,
Yep.
was 1954, and that the Little Rock Central Arkansas High School, those words don't go in that order,
Right.
students, integrated a year or 2 later. So I thought that, but then I said 5 states, and I looked it up, and Arkansas was not one of the 5 states. So
Gotcha.
in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and maybe South Carolina, Ruby Bridges was the first student under the college level to be integrated. And my most immediate thought was, I took all kinds of classes about African American history, and one entire class on the civil rights movement. I had never heard of her. And I have a couple of my books from college. I waited until I was done reading her book to go check, and sure enough, I checked both of them. She was not mentioned in the index. And one of them was a
Wow.
companion to Eyes on the Prize, which was a civil rights documentary that PBS did in the late 80s. And I have the book that's a companion to it. She mentions it in the book that I have about how she watched it.
Wow.
And there's actually a moment in the documentary where there's a photograph of her, and yet she's not mentioned in the book. So it wasn't until the mid 90s that her story started
coming out and
coming
being
out.
a bigger. Yeah.
And yes, and Robert Coles, the author of the book that you read, turns out he was an Air Force psychologist who came upon her story as it was happening, and he actually went and met her and decided she would need some help. And he actually, that year she was integrated in first grade by herself, he actually met with her and did sessions with her.
Yeah.
And I didn't know until afterwards. I'm like, wait, Robert Coles, he's the guy who wrote this book. So anyway, many, many different ways that it's so interesting that we chose these random books, read them separately, and here we are talking about it. I think that's pretty cool.
I think it's very cool. And I'm really glad that I did.
Me too. So I'm going to get back into her story. So she was chosen to integrate an elementary school that was very close to her house and in her neighborhood. And this is another big shock for me of why didn't I know this or think about it? The book I read was the story from her point of view.
Right.
And she was in this school, and I just thought, well, if these Black children, including the ones at Little Rock Central in the 50s, that means they went to school with white people. And I don't know the details of that one. But in this case, she went to school by herself.
Yes, because no one would send their kids to the school. They would not allow them to attend.
So the word hero is there, but also isolation, lonely.
Yeah.
And that's what I was first thinking. And I don't know how the story was told and in what order in your book, but in this memoir, there was a very brave teacher who taught her alone in this classroom. And
Barbara?
Yes. Well, what's great about this book is they have interviews.
Oh, that's awesome.
There's entire segments that shows this where Barbara Henry was the teacher. And she was a young teacher. She and her husband moved to New Orleans and were loving looking at the history and the culture. And
New Orleans is such an interesting place. Getting back to all the music. It's
the food,
huge melting pot of Americana.
Yeah, and a very unique one because it's not just African American, but also the French and the Cajun background.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Just an amazing place. Yeah.
So we're so grateful that y'all are listening to part 1 of 7 of our episodes of
There's
Ruby
a
Bridges.
very large bridge to gap here.
I see what you did there. Yeah. But we need to kind of hurry up because your daughter Ruby has an appointment. See what I did there?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So Mrs. Henry, Barbara Henry, was her teacher. And it came about because as she and her husband, they moved to New Orleans because they were transferred for his job. She's from Boston, and they moved to New Orleans because of his job. And she thought, well, hey, they didn't have kids. They were newlyweds, young married, didn't have children. And she thought, well, I should probably get a job. And so she applied at the school, and the school thought, hey, we'll let her teach this one Black girl in our school. And it was isolating for Ruby because she was in a room by herself, but also for Mrs. Henry because the principal, the other teachers, all of them were very much against having a Black girl in their school. And they treated her horribly. They isolated her. And it was very lonely for both of them, except they loved each other and they had an amazing experience. And that's one of the beautiful, it's one of the beautiful things about this story.
Yeah.
Okay, your turn to talk. Tell me about that part of the story and your thoughts. I'm sorry.
So the book that I read did not get into as many details as it seems that yours did, which is why I'm getting misty-eyed as well, talking about Mrs. Henry. But it was, I don't think that, I mean, it's a children's book, I understand. I feel like it didn't do, I'm going to say, the crime justice.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I think that it felt soft, and I know why it felt soft, because all I'm looking at is this girl who is 6 years old and is sent to school, and there are, hundreds of adults there yelling and screaming and calling her names. I mean, it's not even that bad in middle school now. You only get, 5 kids that are calling you names.
Right. And they're usually disciplined and called out. And you don't have to have state troopers to have them to protect you.
Right. Or the federal marshals, because the police in your town won't protect you. So I get that it's trying to like ease you into the story, but I just I felt like that's why I said I hated it, because I don't hate many things, but I hate that. Like, what is your problem? Like, a 6-year-old kid. Like, I just don't get it.
Yeah.
And, just hugely proud of her.
Yes. Well, and there's a quote from the book. She said that the NAACP pressured my parents and made a lot of promises. So pawn might be a strong word.
No. Yeah. Maybe.
Maybe not.
Maybe
because she didn't ask for this.
No.
They didn't ask for this. And it turns out her parents ended up separating and getting divorced. And she said that they didn't both fully agree about this. And they both want better for their children.
Right.
But it's a huge burden on her and the family so I have to be the hero. I mean, she didn't choose it. And heroes don't often choose, which makes her all the more heroic. She didn't choose this, and she was too young to understand, but it had to be done.
Yeah.
And a lot of amazing things.
And it's sad that had to be done.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I think about the fact that, you were born 7 years after that. I was born 11 years after that. And I don't know, after all that had happened in the world since then, or up to that point, I'm just amazed that when I grew up and went to school, it was never weird to me that there were people of every culture, race, religion, everything. It never was weird to me. And maybe that's because my dad was in the Army and we moved all the time, lived mostly near Army bases so the schools were made up of kids whose parents were in the Army. And the Army is very diversified, at least it is now. And then I think it just wasn't weird to me. But then thinking about the 11 years before that, there would have been people, yelling at a kid that was, but if I was starting first grade, they'd be yelling at this little kid. It's just
Yeah.
dumbfounding.
Well, and obviously, when I was in college studying the civil rights movement and learning some of these stories, I didn't learn this one, but there are many
There's so
stories of
many.
people who are thrust into being heroes. That's one of
Yeah.
the themes I wanted to talk about
Yeah.
because we know about Martin Luther King Jr. and many of the other, leaders of the movement, but the movement wasn't this one organized thing with a capital M.
Right.
And there were so many heroes, protesters, marchers, Rosa Parks, her decision, no, I'm not going to move out of this
Yeah.
seat. Things,
Yeah.
people like that who, you know, and
It's funny though, because like when you say that, it kind of brings me back to the fact that like everybody's supposed to be brought up so proper in these
mhm,
places. You're
yeah,
supposed to be proper and have such good manners that,
yes,
you
that
know,
Southern part
those southern
thing.
manners that if there's a lady, you would stand up and let her sit down,
Mhm.
but not if she's black.
Well, yeah, and I don't know if it mentioned this in your book, but in mine, it got into great detail about many of the people who were protesting and yelling and screaming and being angry were Southern white ladies. So they weren't very, I don't know, ladylike. But
Yeah.
another along those lines, one of the things I observed when I was reading the book was, again, because this was not that long ago, and there's one particular picture, and I actually showed it, flipped to it when I was talking to the class yesterday. Here's a picture of some of the people protesting.
Wow.
And what struck us was this girl right here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see it. She has a really scary, evil
He
face.
sure does.
And what is she holding, Mike? Can you see that?
Looks like a cross of some sort.
It is a cross. And I don't know if you can tell, but the upper part of the cross is dark.
Looks like it was burned.
Exactly. And whether or not that's the case, it doesn't matter. But a burning or burnt cross, we all know what that's the KKK.
Yeah.
And so what I was wondering as I was looking at this picture was, again, because this was 1960, there are a lot of
Yep.
kids in this picture.
Yeah.
Statistically, many of them are still alive
Yeah.
today. So I would like to think and hope that many of them, some of them are probably going, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I believe that.
Yeah.
Because I did stupid things as a kid.
We all did stupid things,
And we all did
and we
stupid
all
things.
listened to our parents
Yes.
and followed what they did because they were our role models.
I am so glad you brought that up. Because here's a theme about Ruby that is beautiful. And it's what Father Mike, it's why he brought her up in the homily, is that she prayed for those people.
Yes. Every day.
She prayed for these
Twice.
people
On her
who were
way
yelling at her.
going into school,
Mm-hmm.
and then after she left school and was past them.
Yeah. She prayed for these people. And her pastor said, pray for your enemies and people who do you wrong. I mean, simple right there. And that's one of the things that Father Mike was talking about in his homily. And later in the book, she said that she knew. So you were right. For a while, she was by herself. But later in the school year, other kids came into the school,
Months
including
later.
ones who were hostile months later.
I thought
And
it
she
was
said,
like, oh, it was a couple weeks later. And then I
no.
realized, oh, she was by herself in class for months.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she said she knew there was one point where she finally got to go to the playground. And there was a boy who wouldn't play with her because he called her the N-word. And she said she knew that the boy who wouldn't play with her and called her the N-word was just doing what his mom told him to do, and that kids should obey their parents. And I'm hoping, you know what? I'm an optimist. I know that some of those kids know that.
Yes.
And that
Some of
they
them. But
have.
you look around the world and, you look around the country today. You don't have to get past our four walls to see that not all of those people learned the lesson that we are all the same. Yes, I'm pasty white, and one of my best friends, and actually most of my best friends in high school, we'll say half, were black.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the 6'2" Asian guy, which still not to, this is probably going to sound racist, but I thought it was funny because he was so tall and Asian.
Well, I like to point out that racism is not acknowledging there's a difference between people.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you.
looking down on and taking a
Yes.
negative meaning,
Negative meaning, yes.
because of the differences.
And that's always something I struggle with stereotypes, because the stereotypes of different people, it becomes a stereotype because so many people of whatever group that is do that a lot. Some of my Black friends in high school complained about going to family reunions because all they ever had was fried chicken and watermelon. They're like, I hate that stuff, except they used some more
colorful language. Can I give you another example of that?
Go ahead.
I've told you this story, I think, before. When I was waiting tables in the early 90s,
yes,
a lot of times waiters, each other's first names and not last names.
Yeah.
And at this restaurant, there were two Brians. And neither of them was there. And somebody was saying, Brian did la, la, la. And somebody innocently asked which Brian. Well, it turns out one was black and one was white. But to say black or white would be racist. And the person was, they're both tall. They're both dads. You could see them. And they're going through all these differentiators. And these two guys are exactly the same, except for two things. I think one was Brian with the Y, one was with an I. And I think if I were writing a comedy sketch, I would have them know the difference, but not know which one was which, like which one was with an I. But all they had to say was black or white.
Right.
Whichever one it was. Oh, black.
It's just a descriptor.
This was. Yeah. But to acknowledge that one of them is black and one of them is white is not racist.
No, it's like I was talking to my friend Chris one day.
Wait, now Chris is the one that I know, right?
Yeah,
he was my roommate.
He was your roommate
and
at my wedding.
At your wedding, yeah.
So Chris and I were talking one day, and this had maybe it was in the 2000s, the early aughts, and we were talking, and I started to say something, and I said something about being black, and I was like, oh my God, I'm sorry, African American. And I was like, and he was like, what? I'm like, sorry, I meant to say African American. And he's like, F that, I'm black.
And you're like, sorry, I'm a guilty white liberal.
Yeah. I'm just a guilty white guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Guilty honky. Where did honky come from? I don't know.
I don't know.
I
but
don't
did
either.
you? Oh, one of the funniest sketches ever on Saturday Night Live was with Richard Pryor and Chevy Chase.
Yes.
Job interview.
Yeah.
Look it up, people. We don't have time.
Yes.
We're already 44 minutes into this
and
episode.
Then also the Eddie Murphy, Mr. White episode.
Yes.
Two very, very great sketches.
Yes.
That, just make you go back and think.
Yes.
Which I think is the meaning of today, is go back and think about these things, people. And put it into context. Like most of the people that were outside that school yelling at Ruby would still be under 100 if they're alive. And there you go. Like, I didn't really think about that, but then you look at the racism that has come out in the past few years and how strong it is. It's like, oh yeah, it wasn't that long ago that this country was totally segregated.
The South, especially
South, but not just the South. I mean, we can say, oh, the North was better, but it wasn't.
They had busing.
It wasn't
busing
great.
Controversies and stuff happened in the 70s.
Yeah,
which was more than 10 years after this.
Yeah.
So the South did not and does not have a monopoly on racism.
No.
Well, I would like to think, and I do think, racism is there, always a problem, but it is far less than it used to be.
I like to think that, and I hope.
Yeah.
Although I will say that because my family is Jewish, I am not. I like to make that distinction because I can look at it from an outsider's point of view of seeing the racism and the hatred of the people that I spend a majority of my time with. And it, it is still prevalent and it's less, but it's still there and it's still bad. So, I want to bring that up because a lot of Jews in our country are white. So you would think, oh, it's different, but it's not. There's a reason why there's so much working together between the Black communities and the Jewish communities because they have been through the same stuff. So, anyway, sorry, off my soapbox.
You and I have been on a lot of soapboxes today.
Yes.
No, but I really, I think what's important is for everyone to be able to talk about this a lot.
Yes.
And to know the
and we
stories,
should talk about it.
Yes. I have decided, so in the same aforementioned middle school public speaking elective, I wrote down as I was preparing for today for school speech about a hero. So everyone needs to find a story about a hero. And I will mention to them that this is what inspired me, Ruby Bridges' story. And I just come up with this idea. If one of them says, can I do that one? I'll be like, yeah,
No.
I didn't say you couldn't, but only one of you can.
I would say no.
Okay.
Because you need to go out and find another story like that.
Well,
if that's what you're inspired by, great. This is not the only story.
Well, no, I definitely don't want any. I was thinking the same thing, but I thought, but I can let one do it because then that if one asks, yes, you can. No, you can't. He or she has it. Sorry. As a fun thing.
No, that is that.
But yeah, the point is to go find heroes and all of that. So all of this because Father Mike chose to talk about Ruby at his homily. This is the power of storytelling.
Yes.
Because here's what also happened, Mike. Oh, by the way, for those of you listening and watching, Mike is not related to Father Mike.
Just as far as we know.
As far as we know. Well, that could be, what's the show on PBS, the genealogy show with?
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Where they interview two people about they find out you actually are related.
Through Aaron Burr.
You're from Cain and you're from Abel. I went further back than you did. You went to Aaron Burr because you're related to Aaron Burr. Is that right?
We are related to Aaron Burr.
Golly. Where was it? Oh, yeah. So because I had the book and talked about it at home, Sarah, my daughter, yesterday said, Daddy, when you're done, can I read that book?
That's awesome.
And I'm like, yes, you can. And you will. And then we will talk about it.
Yeah. And it's really important. I think that as much as I say I hated the book, I loved the book.
No, I understood what you meant.
But that's the point. Like,
yes,
it's got to move you. And it did move me to be mad. Because I just still, sorry, you talk because I'm just still mad.
No, I got it. I got two things. This reminds me of. One, my dad told me a story. My dad was born in 1933, born and raised in Dallas. And he remembers that at one of the houses he lived in, there was a servant's quarters in the back. And they had hired a family that lived there. And the mom was their housekeeper. And my dad played with the boy. They were African-American. They were Black, this family. And my dad was playing with the boy. And at one point, and my dad sadly has passed away. I don't remember the exact story. I just remember that he was playing with the boy. And then at one point, they were told they couldn't play together.
Wow.
And my dad didn't understand that.
Right.
And that story stuck with him. And thankfully, he told me. Because there's a point in Ruby's story where it was a long time that she didn't understand all of this was happening because of the color of her skin.
Yeah.
It may have been weeks or months because she was so isolated.
Yeah.
You know, the security walking her in and out of school, being in the room by herself with Mrs. Barbara Henry. And it wasn't until months later, and it may have been with that boy calling her the N-word, that she realized, oh, she didn't even realize this was happening because of the color of her skin.
Wow.
And that's one of the ways that the civil rights movement and just racism and discrimination, how it affects children. Because at first, they don't have that poison. They don't have that. And then when they have that realization, it, whether they are the victim or the perpetrator, it's awful. It's just
Yeah.
awful.
And I was talking to somebody at work years ago, and he was a white guy. I believe that his first wife was black, but he was from a very small town. And when he was in high school, he's like, I was very racist because that's what the culture was. Everybody.
Where was
it? Was in Indiana. So, but he said, he didn't know, maybe he didn't know at the time, but soon after found out that like some of his really good friends, their parents were like the leaders of the KKK in their town. And it's just like, wow. Like, and then to have someone who admits that they were severely racist because of where their location, basically, and the people around them. And then to be able to, that they left that town and either went to college or wherever, but we're like, well, this is dumb. Like, and then ended up marrying a black woman. Like,
how old was he?
He's
How
older.
old is he now?
He's probably 70, 65, 70, maybe a little older. I'm not even sure. He looks very much older, but
I just asked because it makes a difference to put it in the right time and place. Because you mentioned Indiana.
Yeah.
I believe that's where the KKK started. I believe it started in Indiana, not the South.
I did not research that, and I probably won't. But I might, just so that I can really know.
Verify.
Like,
well, this goes back to history, though. This is why we study history.
Yeah.
I remember when I graduated college in 1990 in Massachusetts, one of my classmates, we were just talking, and I forgot where she was going or what she was going to do. But I remember her saying, I don't want to live in the South because it's too racist. And this was 1990.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I didn't.
Because I drove a truck from Chicago to Biloxi, Mississippi, to take some lighting equipment to a tour that had switched their headliners. And on the way down, my friend, coworker, Josh, like Josh Nelson, I think was his name. We stopped somewhere and somebody said something, and I'm sometimes slow. I didn't get it. And we got back in the car and he was like, oh my God, that was so racist. And I'm like, what? And then I was like, oh my God, I didn't even get it. This was 1992. Or no, 94.
Wow.
94, 95.
And where was it?
That was in Mississippi. Yeah.
Okay. I got another 90s story for you.
Shoot.
1998, I'm on tour. You mentioned tour.
Tours.
I was on a tour with the Cartoon Network, Smash Tennis. I was the MC of this tennis promotion. We were in O'Fallon, Illinois, which is southern Illinois. It's actually a suburb of St. Louis.
Okay.
And I was talking to a guy from there. There's a large Air Force base near there. And I don't know why we were talking about this, but we were just talking. And he had told a story of a group from the Air Force base who had gone out to a restaurant to eat lunch. One of them was black, the rest were white. And they went to the restaurant, and the owner of the restaurant was there. She was white and drunk. And she said, basically, you can't be here. So y'all can eat here, but not you. You're not welcome here. And they said, thank you very much. And they all left and they went back to the base. They told the people at the base, and the military had a zero tolerance for racism. So the Air Force Base said no one is allowed to. They didn't say, they basically said no one can go to that restaurant until, and they had a whole list of things: apology, signs, all are welcome here, all this kind of stuff. All this. He was telling me this story about when this happened. And I said, well, when was that? And I, African-American history major, trying to place it during the civil rights movement. And he said, last year.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So and I was like, oh my God.
Mid to late 90s.
Yeah. This was in the 90s. This was not in the 50s or 60s or 70s or today, like an FM radio. But Anyway, so yeah, it's the work is never done. I know that you and I are not probably in the exact same spot on the political spectrum, but
Probably
it
not.
doesn't matter. It's still really important to study history because all of this matters.
And this is not a political issue. This
Yeah,
is a humanitarian issue.
yeah.
We're all human.
Hmm.
We're not different. We might look different because we all look different, except
Hmm.
for the guy that I met in college that looked like me, which was super weird. But everybody thought he looked exactly like me. So funny. Anyway,
That's funny.
so yes, there are people that look alike. Um, So yeah, the work is never done.
Yes.
Like, we're all human. Black people are human. Jewish people are human. Lithuanian people are human.
Catholics are human.
Indians are human. Native
Mhm.
Americans are human.
Mhm.
We're all human.
But
And why can't we just all get along?
I also want to point out that we all are also different. Everyone's different.
Yes.
And that's awesome.
That's the best part of life.
Yeah,
How
and it's
can you learn every day if everybody was the same?
also one of the things I love about our culture in the United States, because we don't have a culture in the United States. We have cultures.
Yes.
And, people are like, oh, American cuisine. Like if you say Italian food, you kind of know what that means.
Right.
But American cuisine, cuisines.
Hazelnut gelato.
Oh,
That's what Italian cuisine means to me.
yes.
Thanks. Thanks
To
Dan.
Dan Yacarino.
Yeah.
Yes, for me, it's caffè e cioccolata, 2.000 lire. Well, why don't we end it on that sweet note of gelato?
That's a great idea, Piccolo.
Because we're at over an hour now, according to my meter up here.
1 hour and 30 seconds. I will cut it down, and I think I want to leave this as one episode
That's a great idea.
because I think sometimes it's important, and this is.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for listening, and not as wacky as usual, but we're not always wacky. That's
No.
fine.
But happy reading,
Yes,
and happy reading is reading where you learn.
yes,